Hey, what is going on? You are watching and, of course, listening to Tags Live, aka Talk About Gay Sex, the live edition. We're here every Wednesday night. We're talking about Talk About Gay Sex here, our second show of the week. We are celebrating 6 years of podcasting. I am your host, Stevie. This is episode 456, alongside co-host Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm doing wonderful. It was 80 degrees here. I was out in shorts. I was like, is Joe rubbing off on me? I don't know what's going on with me, but I was outside in shorts in April. Yes.
It's so exciting because weather is changing, particularly here on the East Coast, all across the nation, and I am living for it. Of course, as I leave for Puerto Vallarta, which is going to be super warm and sultry. I can't wait. But I am happy that it's like this here in the cities that we reside in. We are in front of a live studio audience. A little bit later, we've got sex positive coach joining us, Craig Cullinane, to the show, and he's going to be breaking it down for us. I'm really excited. You know, and we've tried to have him on a few times, but this is the time in our new home here on Crowdcast. All right, well, we've got to get into it on this episode 456. Like we said, we're in front of a live studio virtual audience. And I am such a huge fan, Kodi, of Halle Berry. Halle Berry was out and about last Sunday, twerking it up, having mimosas at a drag brunch. Halle Berry clearly loves a meal and a show, especially when she can get in on the action. The actress gave the crowd and the paid performers a Sunday to remember at WEHO's La Boheme Drag Queen Brunch, showing up with her boyfriend, Van Hunt, and a friend for some good fun and grub. And if you watch the video, which I'll post on TAGSPodcast.com relating to episode 456, she clearly knew what she was doing. Apparently, according to insider word, is they haven't done this La Boheme drag brunch since the pandemic. And so she chose to show up at the right time and give it a little bit extra punch. She was twerking, dancing. When they called her up, she took pictures with every single drag queen. I was living for it. What were your thoughts when you saw this?
I love Halle Berry. I've loved her since the Boomerang. I adore her so much. She's one of my favorites. And this is clearly not her first time at a drag brunch. It may be her first time being recorded at a drag brunch, because this seems like it's not really a mistake. It seems like it was something that she put out there to kind of support the community and and it's in a subtle way, kind of let everybody know that, you know, LGBTQ people are valid, drag queens are a viable part of this community, and we just need to support them and love them. That's what she was doing. She was loving up on the queens, and I lived for it.
It was so effortless, and only the way Halle can do it too. You know, you don't go to a drag brunch on a Sunday knowing that every queen's going to be there and cameras are out, and not know that you're going to be filmed like that. But I love that she took pictures with the drag queens and supported the whole extravaganza of it all. And, you know, she was just in the press the other day because she posted on her Instagram naked, dipping a glass of wine, well, let me just redo the quote, because I was going to actually... She was naked on her balcony, sipping a glass of wine with the quote, "I do what I want to do. Happy Saturday." And looking just stunning. She got some flack from some trolls, one in particular that she clapped back, which I loved, but essentially clapped back for saying, "Okay, grandma, shouldn't you be with your grandchildren? Aren't you in menopause?" And, you know, the one thing you're talking about Halle Berry. I mean, there's some youngins that wish they look like Miss Halle Berry. So
I wish
he needs to shut up. She shut it down real quick. She is going to do. Other people were saying, "Oh, it was thirsty," but no thirsty than any other picture that people post all the time. So what? We're not allowed to. I post pictures like this. I'm about to go to Puerto Vallarta and post some pictures myself.
You have to do one on the balcony.
Naked. I know.
Oh
I
my
might
God,
just do that. Instead of a glass of wine, it'll be a margarita, of course. But I mean, listen, she is clearly living her best life and doing even better later on in life, although she's been doing great all this whole time. I feel like I get better and better with age, and this would be something that I would do now that I wouldn't have had the nerve to do before. I work out all the time, nonstop, and I'm proud of my body. And you know what? F you to the naysayers, because if you're going to like come at us for ageism.
It's ridiculous. I don't understand how people can say that Halle Berry isn't beautiful at any age. And I know that you can live your best life and be a sexual, valid, gorgeous being at any age. So if anybody can do it, Halle can do it. And I'm here for it. So let's
love
go.
it. Which brings us to our first poll question of the night based on our last episode 455 with Kodi, myself, and Jeremy. We want you guys to take the poll right now. And you guys can take it at home too. Just click on the link of episode 456. We're asking the question, body hair, because we were talking about it the other day. How much is too much? And your options are the hairier, the better, or trimmed for the win, or lastly, shaved and clean, please. Those are your options. We want you to weigh in. We'll report back at the end of this episode. But of course, you can continue voting and we'll report back on next week's episode. All right. Keeping the momentum going, as we always do on this show, we've got to talk about New York City here. There is a New York City urologist, you guys, that was arrested for fondling underage boys using sex toys on patients. And you might already think that there's those porn videos that do the doctor-patient visit. I've certainly whacked off to those in the past.
Are hot.
Those are hot. This was reality. A Manhattan,
this is not hot.
Yeah, a Manhattan urologist already being sued by 7 male patients for alleged sex abuse was busted last Tuesday on related criminal charges, including some involving underage boys. And authorities said Darius Haddouk, who's 55, who formerly worked at New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medical Center and Northwell Health, carried out the abuse when he was alone with the patients in the exam room, telling them to masturbate while often playing porn, according to a Manhattan federal court indictment. He would also masturbate the patients using sex toys on them and conduct unnecessary rectal exams without wearing gloves. In some cases, Paddock would grab a victim's penis, telling them they were masturbating incorrectly, the court document alleges. And this is just, yes. Do you think that he watched too many of those porn videos, Kodi, that we've all seen and fantasized about, but that we all know are fantasy?
Yeah.
And blurred and risked his credible license and abused men and young men?
I don't know what he was thinking. I can't even put into my frame of mind. He is. I couldn't understand why he would want to take advantage of people that are entrusting him with their health. They're trusting him with so much, and the fact that he would take advantage of his power goes against the Hippocratic Oath to the umpteenth percentage. I can't understand why he would do this. But what makes the porn version of this kind of hot is there is always an underlying understanding that these people have consented to this. But without consent, it makes it so lascivious and it makes it so disgusting. And I hope this guy gets thrown underneath the jail, because I can't believe this happened.
Right. I mean, we even question, should we bring up that fantasy that we have that's really the reality out there in porn right now? That is, but the reality is underage boys not okay. Yeah. Anybody, when you go to the doctor in general, when you go to a urologist particularly, you have to often be recommended by your primary care doctor. You are going there for a reason, not for any of this stuff. We can all have fantasies that we like. I can't believe that he crossed that line. Well, now he's paying the price, and it's disgusting.
If he wanted to play doctor, he could find somebody who's into that and go play doctor. Nobody is trying to look down on him for his kinks, but all parties have to be consenting for it to be okay and make it a legitimized fantasy, basically.
Exactly. And staying on the lines of people losing their minds, there's a Florida man who was arrested for masturbating in public. And he said he had to ejaculate due to, get this, rectum issues. All right. Upon. Yeah.
Oh, my.
So the guy is Jason Roach. He's 40 years old. He had been questioned twice prior to this connection to what we're talking about incident, which happened at Arby's. Arby's is what is it? Steakhouse? I don't even know.
Girl.
I don't know. I've never been to an Arby's. I never have it. It's not in my wheelhouse.
Oh my gosh. This is not in my notes. Girl, you don't know what Arby's is?
I don't. I kind of know, but I don't want to know. In both instances, Roach stopped and went on by his way, according to court filings. The third time, however, was not the charm, and a witness told police that Roach was naked and touching himself in masturbating while near the speedway around 6 a.m. And when questioned about his activities, Roach reportedly said that he was, quote, having issues with his rectum, and in order to get rid of that pain, he had to ejaculate. Child, please. We've all been horny and had to ejaculate, or thought we had to ejaculate, and show some self-restraint. And it was funny because in some of the comments, people were like, I'd help him, but
that's so thirsty. What are you talking about? Steve doesn't even know what an Arby's is. Why are you trying to go to the Arby's?
No, well, for the sake of for our international audience, what is an Arby's, Kodi?
Arby's is just basically, it's kind of like it's a fast food restaurant, basically. It's kind of like a deli. They slice the meats. This actually the slogan is, we have the meats. And I think this man took that a little bit too literally by taking his meat out at Arby's and jacking it off, because this is crazy. Who would do this? It seems like he has an exhibitionist fetish, and that's why he was out there in public just jacking off. And we need to educate him that there are certain places that you don't do this. Arby's is one of them, honey. This is the Arby's, okay? I don't think that we should be taking our dicks out and waving it around at an Arby's.
What do you think about his point at the end? Like, I had to do this. Was that a last moment of reaching for, the fruit? Like, let me just try this and see if it works, if it takes. I have to ejaculate because what's going on with your rectum that you have to ejaculate? We all have to ejaculate. We don't have to, but we want to. I think it was the last minute.
But because of our rectum? Go ahead, what were you saying?
Yeah, he wasn't getting pounded at the time, so It's just crazy. Those watching us live, Teddy Alexis Rodriguez, who's co-hosted this show before when I wasn't available. Thanks, Teddy. Says Arby's is the dollar store of chain restaurants. Laughing out loud. I love it. That's why I don't know about it.
Arby's is delicious.
Oh my God. Bryce,
go back.
Let me just read Bryce's comment. Yes. Bryce says Arby's is only good for the curly fries. Okay, Bryce, thanks.
I like Arby's, you guys. They have a nice roast beef sandwich that I think doesn't have dick in it. I don't think so, but it just might. So maybe that's why I like it. But to go back to what you were asking about the whole rectum issue, that, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when you were a kid and you would just say the first thing that came to your mind. Oh, when you got in trouble. Your mom is like, why were you outside butt naked? Oh, Mom, the dog ate my clothes, and that's why I was outside
my underwear.
Naked. I know, right? So
the dog ate my junk strap. Why do you have a junk strap? Oh, well.
So yeah, it just sounds like he didn't know what to say, and the whole rectum thing was the first thing that came to his mind. He should have just been honest, I feel like.
2 and points for that response. -10 for, go to the after hours party, go to the sex club, don't go to Arby's.
Don't go to Arby's.
Don't mix your roast beef with fun time in the bathroom. But he's paying for it now. Okay, we got to move on because we have one more topic to get to. And apparently, Doxycycline is seen as a solution now to the soaring STD rates. And essentially, I got this story because a lot of people are taking Doxycycline. This is according to the because rates of STIs and STDs are on the rise. Apparently, when you take Doxycycline, it actually helps and shows how chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis cases you can not get them, essentially. Experts believe STDs have been on the rise because of declining condom use, as we all know, because of things like the pandemic, but also because of PrEP. Millions of Americans are infected each year. Rates are highest in men who have sex with men. Sexually transmitted infections are enormous, apparently, according to Dr. John M. Douglas Jr., a retired health official who lectures at the Colorado School of Public Health. And people are taking this antibiotic, which really is wiping out some of these STDs. I'm here for it, Kodi, even though I do think that when you do take antibiotics, you expose yourself to, I don't think it's a quick fix. I think it's if you feel that you're sexually active in a certain point. I feel like a friend of mine told me recently he was having a lot of sex, he was on vacation, or another one told me they were at a 3-day party that were having a lot of fun. We can't ignore the reality of what our community is doing right now. And if this can combat many of those STDs and people want to take this Doxycycline, I think that they should. On the other side, you probably don't want to make it a regular thing because we all know what antibiotics can do internally, and they're not like the best things. Yes, will they wipe out certain things like certain STDs? Yes. What else are they doing internally? And is this something that we always want to rely on? Probably, I'm going to guess, not. That's my recommendation. But I do not want to say to listeners or anybody, don't do it, because if this is where we're at right now, this is where we're at, Kodi. So, people are not going to start wearing condoms. Sorry, not going to do it. If you're on, I'm sorry, Kodi.
I think
that's not where you can act like that's where we're at and tell people to wear condoms, but it's not where most people are at. I feel that's my opinion, and you guys can get mad at me on the show and write into me, but I feel like this is where we're at.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I think that you are not necessarily 100% wrong. I do think that if you are out there having a lot of sex and you're out here having casual sex constantly, then Doxycycline, if that's even how you pronounce it, I can't pronounce it. I'm not a doctor.
Doxycycline.
Whatever Steve said. Is not a viable issue for you. You should probably be using condoms, because the more that your immune system gets used to these antibiotics, then the more they become useless, and you won't be able to fight a bacterial infection. So you need to take that into consideration and maybe use condoms if you're having a lot of casual sex. If you're out here taking loads at the circuit party once or twice a year, then I think that this might be a viable option for you, because it's short term and it probably won't do a huge amount of damage to your immune system. So it's a balancing act. My doctor always tells me that if something is working for you, then it's okay to use it. So I'm not against this at all, but I'm saying use it sparingly, basically.
Yeah, and let's remind our audience that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is drafting recommendations for using it as a kind of morning after pill for prevention of STDs. So it is recommended by the CDC, and I think you just need to check in with your doctor and check in with what your activity is. But if the CDC is recommending it because of what they're seeing in rates of STDs, it's good enough for me, and I'm here for it. So
Yeah,
I just think that's where we're at.
It could save you a lot of headaches or dick aches if that's what you're having. So
there you go. Well, it is time to bring up our special guest, and I think do you want to? Okay, you do it.
I'll
Kodi.
invite him up.
Thank you very much. We are about to bring up our special guest, Craig Cullinane, sex positive coach. And did you invite him to the stage?
Yes.
All right.
Yay. Hey, how's it going?
Woohoo! Awesome. Let me introduce you, Craig, and then we'll get into it. Craig Cullinane just finished serving as the director of Body Electric School for the last 4 years and has served on the Body Electric faculty for more than 10 years. And as a coach, he supports his clients in centering their most treasured desires with simple habits that translate into real results. For 6 years, Craig was the director of programming for rehabilitation through the arts, RTA, inviting incarcerated people, I really want to ask about this question, incarcerated people into a process of growth and healing through artistic expression. Craig holds a master's degree in service, leadership, and management from SIT Graduate Institute. And Craig, welcome to the show. And before we get going, we have a long-standing friend that told us about you, also sex positive coach Finn Deerhart. When I asked him about you to say a couple words, he wrote this. He says, tell him that the way he embodies his eroticism is so sexy, not only because of his physical beauty and power, but also because of his vulnerability, self-inquiry, and dedication of healing for all of us.
Oh,
that's by Finn Deerhart.
The checks in the mail, Finn. Good Lord.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much,
Craig. We finally got you. Little show note here, and we won't spend too much time on it. We tried to have him on our old home and didn't have a lot of luck. And we really, really appreciate you staying with us as we figured all this technical difficulties out.
Well, it wasn't hard because you two are hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
And you're so charming and funny and wonderful. And it's just so great to hear you. And I love what you're putting out. And it's just so wonderful to hear it. And it's so real and good.
I love it. Kodi, you got the first question.
Yes, I love that you invite men to find their inner sexy, and I love that you tap into their inner and that you invite them to tap into their inner sexiness. How do you think that tapping into that sexy can benefit a person, especially a gay man, and how they operate in the world?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Yeah, I teach these workshops through the Body Electric School all the time. One's called Awakening Eros. Right? How do we awaken our own erotic energy that lives in our body, our birthright, with our touch, with pleasure, with, conscious and really skillful masturbation techniques and all this stuff. And so I would be teaching these workshops. A lot of these ones were online during COVID. And I would always give this homework assignment to everybody in the class. And this was mostly gay men, queer men. This week, every single time you walk down the street like you are the sexiest guy on the block. As an experiment, just see what happens, right? See what happens if you just call forth from within yourself your own inherent sexiness. And for some people, and not in to compare or be better or worse than anybody else out there, but just for yourself, what happens in your body? What happens to how you walk down the street? What happens to your confidence, your capacity to connect with other people, right? And it was so amazing hearing the stories that people would share about doing that exercise, doing that experiment. And I just got really curious about this idea of what does it feel like to feel sexy? What does it feel like to feel sexy in my body? What does it feel like to touch my body? And honor its sexiness, reclaim my sexiness. And I think we just do that with an invitation to ourselves, with some intention.
That is such a great recommendation to do, because I feel like all of us have our insecurities, but all of us have our imagination of who we could be, or we all imagine ourselves. I'm just going to say this, in a music video at times. I've been binging RuPaul's Drag Race, Kodi, and so you know how we all have that image of ourselves that like badass, and we can flip, the hair, do all this. So it's such a good thing to do. I do this all the time on my own. I walk down the street and I'm like, Brunch, here I go.
Here it is, right
when
now.
you got the music in your ears, how can you not? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, one of the things we talk about in Body Electric, one of the things I talk about with coaching is like, how can I welcome more pleasure in my life? How can I experience my body, experience my life in more pleasurable ways? And one of them is to reclaim our own sexiness, to feel sexy. And sometimes for people that can be really hard. It can be it can bring up shame. It can bring up all kinds of stories we have about ourselves and our bodies. And, for some people, it's like, I don't feel sexy at all. Like, that's not my experience of myself. Right.
Well, before we go into more stories of this, because I want to keep on this, so
go for
that on the second back burner. But I do want to know, you worked with incarcerated individuals, and
I did.
When I read that, you taught, I believe you taught them theater and art. What can you tell us about that experience? Because many of us think so much like, I don't know what we think. We just think like it's a losing game. But I like that you gave back to that community.
Well, for 6 years, I was the director of programming for this wonderful organization out of New York called Rehabilitation Through the Arts, which brings theater and really all other art forms to now 6 prisons in the area, including Sing Sing, maximum security prison. So Sing Sing and Greenhaven and Bedford Hills, which is the only maximum security women's prison in New York State. So I had this amazing opportunity to go inside these intense spaces, and be a part of creating communities of people who wanted to grow and heal and learn life skills, cognitive, emotional, social skills through putting on theater productions, making art, writing poetry, creating personal monologues, learning acting, learning all of these different things. And, I think, of course, the prison system in the United States is one of the most horrible examples. It's like the worst of us as a in terms of our imagination or in terms of how we care for people. And people who are inside the walls deserve to be treated with humanity and respect, and I have to tell you, going in there for so many years, there are absolute masters inside those walls. People who taught me so much about life and about myself and about the world.
So they were receptive.
Oh yeah. Well, these are people who wanted to be a part of the program. Okay. Right? Like they didn't, they didn't have to be a part of it. The way it worked, you couldn't just like take a dance class or take, and we had the only men's modern dance class in prison.
Oh, wow.
In prison, which was, talk about putting it on the line and taking risks around masculinity. And just some of the bravest, most incredible work. And anyway, so it was wild because I would have this job, which was super intense and super beautiful. And just, it's like going into max prison is, it's literally like you need that thing from the Matrix where they stick that thing in the back of your head so you can like understand the context of it. You know what I'm talking about? It's just like so otherworldly in some ways.
Yeah.
But then on the weekends, I would go and teach these Body Electric workshops where I was inviting people into awakening into their erotic energy in their bodies and healing from erotic energy, learning how to give pleasure, learning how to receive pleasure. And one day I was kind of like, really, both of these things are the same thing.
Yeah.
It's really creating this beautiful space where people wake up and heal through some process. That one being art, this one being erotic energy. But really, creativity and erotic energy are all really a part of the same energies in some ways.
I was going to ask you more about like the parallels between art and the erotic energy.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is the commonalities between those two things?
Well, I with some other people have developed a workshop that I really love. I've taught it a couple times. I'm teaching it again in June down in North Carolina. One version of it is called Art and Eros. Another one's called Creativity and Eros. And it's basically like this idea that what happens if we tap our erotic energy in our body with pleasure, with touch, with breath, raise it to the surface, and then paint or write poetry? What happens if I activate this inherent beautiful life force of creativity within me with erotic touch in really incredible, group experiences, and then see who I am as an artist. I kind of colloquially started calling the workshop "Rub Your Dicks in Paint," but it's way more than that.
I love that.
It's art, it's creativity and eroticism. It's like, our erotic energy is our creative energy, and this idea, like people who, who am I as an artist, as a creative being? It's so connected to my sexiness. It's so connected to my life force, and it's fun to kind of bring them together intentionally.
That's so beautiful. And we touched on erotic shame a little bit earlier, but can you tell us what erotic shame is and how that impacts prioritizing pleasure?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess shame is shame, right? And
Right.
we have cultural shame, we have family shame, we have shames in our bodies, we carry shame. And shame is a lie. It's a racket, it's a story, often used in power situations culturally to keep people down. And I think that shame, we absorb it into our bodies, into our thought systems, and it can be a block to pleasure, right? I mean, I know for me, like if I have experienced shame in my body in my life, and part of my journey in my life is healing that, letting it go, freeing it, so I can be in more connection sexually, erotically. I know there's been times in my life when feeling some shame around my body or around my erotic energy would be a wall to intimacy, a wall to being in real connection, a wall to being able to just relax enough in my body to feel pleasure. So I mean, and with Body Electric, myself and this wonderful teacher, Mark Fleming, a few times we've taught a class called Healing Body Shame for Queer Men. And we know in queer men, with queer men, gay men, there's a lot of body dysmorphia. There's a lot of, it's like, and you see these beautiful people, and they, if you ask them about their body, they would be like, oh, my body's horrible. And, all these shame stories around it. And they look so beautiful because it doesn't matter. It's like the disconnect between the reality and how we feel about ourselves. And I think some of that's really related. That shame stuff is really related to homophobia, internalized homophobia, which is so hard to, avoid and heal.
Absolutely. You do a workshop, and by the way, we're live. So if anybody has questions with our live virtual audience, put them in the comment section and we'll address them to Craig.
The comments are going wild, by the way.
Yeah.
Them in a second,
what type of wine are you having? Jungle juice.
I am having jungle juice. I'm having, what is it?
Does your brain feel all cottony now?
No, it doesn't. It feels really good. But one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is that, when you are feeling, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought because of that whole comment. But I think the whole thing about being in the moment and, I know, awakening play is a whole thing that you teach a whole course on. And what is it about our community that doesn't allow us to have fun that you created this whole workshop called Awakening Play?
It was actually called Awakening Eros.
Okay.
Awakening erotic energy. And it was kind of just like a beginning. It's kind of like, what does erotic even mean? So like when I say erotic to the two of you, like what words come out? Like what's your definition of erotic?
Pleasure.
Sexuality.
Uninhibited.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kodi.
Nudity.
Pleasure. Secret.
Touch. Yeah. Well, one of the things we talk about, again, I'm going back to the Body Electric School, and of course that's where a lot of my learning comes from, is this idea that the erotic is really this umbrella. It's really about sensuality. So it could be like erotic to like, eat a mango, or it can be erotic to feel the breeze on your skin as you're walking down the street on a beautiful day, or it can be erotic to see a painting or to dance or to move, right? So there's all these ways that our erotic energy can activate and inform different parts of our lives. So it can inform our creativity. It can inform how we feel about ourselves. It can inform sex. Right. But so we try to expand this idea of what is erotic, and really it's about, we are in these bodies, and it's very rare to be in a body, We're on a planet hurtling through space right now at 60,000 miles an hour. And it's crazy that we're even here, right? It's like I read this article. It's like life in the universe is as rare as 2 grains of sand in the Gobi Desert.
Wow.
It's absolutely crazy that we find ourselves in these bodies.
And when we keep losing people left and right at young ages, life becomes so much more precious to grab onto it now.
It is precious. It's rare. It's wild. It's a gift. It's like, you know, and then it's like we find ourselves in these bodies, and these bodies can feel so much pleasure if we just slow down and get curious about how pleasure lives in our body. What's our relationship to it? How can I offer it to others? How can I welcome it myself?
So why are we afraid of it at times? Because somebody watching us right now, Bryce watching us live, says eroticism to me is divine authenticity,
love that.
which I love. Why are we not in touch with it? Or are we not willing to go there? What's blocking us for finding that?
Culture makes us afraid, writes Teddy. Absolutely. And, you know, it's like, you know, we have these like, you know, religious thought systems. You know, I grew up Catholic, you know, and you know, that's not a body affirming culture. You know, they're not telling you, hey, like, you know, spend time figuring out what feels good to you. They're telling you the body is a sin.
Right.
They're telling you that you should feel ashamed for feeling erotic pleasure. And it's very difficult not to absorb that as we grow up from media, culture, church, family. It's like, that's how we are. That's how humans process and evolve. You know, so I mean, like, so let me ask you, can I ask you 2 questions?
Sure.
So like, where did you learn about sex when you were young? Like, where did you learn about masturbation?
Okay, I'll start, and then you go to. I have 2 answers. One of them that came to mind originally was the Sears catalog.
Yeah.
Number 2 was I was a gymnast, so it was looking at other boys in the gymnastic arena. Yeah. And number 3 was a gymnastic friend that we just started. I would stay over there on weekends, and we would touch each other and see what felt good.
And how old were you?
I was 12 to 15. Era.
Now, did anybody from like your community come to you and say, "Let me teach you about your body and pleasure"?
Nobody did. And when they did do that, or if they found out, if it was like my father or somebody that I was, you know, I used to also, this is so embarrassing, but I used to do this thing with like t-shirts and make them like wigs.
Everybody did that.
Yeah. My father found that and like, what's this? And it had a rubber band around it because of course I was like whipping it around my head. And I was made to feel shamed and guilt.
Of course.
Of course, for that. Now I want to buy like hair and pull it over.
Did you used to like put the towel around your head and spin around like one? Of course.
You sure?
But let me say this. Let me just say this. That none of us, very few people, have had any kind of skillful or meaningful erotic education about who we are as erotic beings is the reason that fucking guy's at Arby's.
Ooh.
That's the reason that guy is at Arby's whipping his dick out. Because it's like it's like all of us are on our own.
Yes.
And there's no wisdom.
And yes, so that
was one of my points
right now. This is the way he had to express it, and you know, we did it in our way, secretly or whatever. He's doing it outwardly, and probably has less of less.
Yeah, I hear that.
Kodi, like, how did you like? So
take advantage of it, Kodi.
How did you?
I know, right?
Do you remember the first time that you like ejaculated or touched yourself?
Yes, I do actually.
What were the circumstances,
and it was
Kodi?
a transcendental experience.
Wow,
really.
Beautiful.
When the first time I ejaculated, I feel like I played around with other kids my age. We experimented, kissed, and did some touching like Steve did.
Oh wow.
Maybe when I was around 12 or 13, around that age. And then I didn't ejaculate until I was maybe around 16.
Oh wow.
16.
But
do you remember it? Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you ejaculated, Steve?
Steve, not the shame.
All right, turn my camera off. Turn my camera
You're
off.
like 16, bitch.
You're a late bloomer, bitch. I gotta go. I gotta go in the other room now. No, it was amazing, and I did not know that anybody could feel like that. That's the thought that I remember having, is that it was such a full body experience, and it just felt so amazing. What, Steve's making faces over there? I don't know.
No, sorry.
What did he say?
So what we don't know is we have comments coming out, and Teddy, who is co-hosted on the show before, said 16. That was powdered milk by then.
Well, that sounds really beautiful.
I was a late bloomer, but I did watch a lot of porn beforehand as well. And that was, but I didn't really come until around 16, which is, I guess, late. I don't know. And George Michael and all of those type of things, lusting up to George Michael.
I saw him in concert. He was so good.
Oh, me too. He was amazing.
He was so good. I will be your father figure. That was good.
Oh, you better sing, Craig. Yeah.
No, let me just say, I have 5 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and it's 2 girls and then 6 boys. And so, like, my brothers had, like, Penthouse mags under their beds, and I would swipe them, and I would read them, and I was never interested in the pictures because it was women, and I didn't eroticize women. I wasn't attracted to women, but I loved the Penthouse forum, the stories. I thought they were super hot, and I would get, like, I'd read them, but they use this kind of like flowery language, and some of it I didn't understand, So I went to my brother Steve. I was trying to be all stealth, and I was like, Steve, can I ask you a question? And he was like, what? And I was like, does a woman's pussy taste like ambrosia? Because ambrosia was that like Jello dish at Thanksgiving with the white.
That's right.
Yes.
Everyone
I want to do that, but I really like ambrosia.
Did you ever taste the pussy to see if it tastes like ambrosia?
I've never had that experience.
It doesn't. I'm gonna let you both know.
I've taken a workshop, a body electric workshop before, where it was an all genders, all bodies experience, and I did give a genital massage to a woman. And it was interesting because then I received a massage, and they did it in threesomes. And the 2 people who massaged me, one was a straight woman and one was a straight man, giving me an erotic massage.
I love that.
And this woman, and so the way that it worked was that one person would work on your cock, and the other person would put their hands on the rest of your body. And so the woman was the one who was going to work on my cock, and I had never had a cock massage by a woman before. And I was a little nervous. I was just like, and so I kind of like sat up before it happened, and I was like, do you want to do this? I don't know, it was like a Me Too thing or something. And she was like, I love cocks, and I was like, okay. And she gave me this beautiful cock massage. And it's so funny. If I ever see this woman now, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, hey.
I love it.
She loved your cock.
I'm like, oh, she did.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, go ahead.
One more question.
Yeah.
Before, since we were talking about porn, you do a porn cleanse.
Yes.
We love porn. We live porn. You do a 30-day porn cleanse. Yeah. What does that entail, and why do you think that that's important?
We just finished it. Myself and a wonderful sex educator and therapist in New York City, Don Shuey. He and I teach it together. It's an opportunity it's online, it's for queer men, and it's an opportunity to just take a look at your relationship to pornography. Some people get really super hooked into it. And, pornographic images, they need pornographic images to come, or it could be a wall of intimacy and relationship. Like, all kinds of reasons that people just want to, we call it the 30-day porn cleanse, the pause that refreshes. And it's just kind of like taking some space from the porn usage. And we ask everybody to create an experiment for themselves. Like, some people are like, I'm not looking at porn for 30 days, and I'm going to see what happens in my body, with my ejaculations, whatever. Some people are like, I'm going to watch porn, but I'm going to I'm going to be connected, not just use it as a thing to check out or go to sleep or, unplug. So it's very beautiful, actually. It's very deep, and the people in the class share very vulnerably about their struggle, and they get support from other people about how to just kind of shine the light of consciousness on something that, some people really struggle with. It's actually really beautiful. Yeah.
I like that. And lastly, I wanted to ask the question that I just thought about is if you had to list one thing about gay men that you're optimistic about sexually, and one thing that you think that we could improve on based on this whole conversation, I was just like, what's one thing, just in a nutshell, what's one thing, Craig, that you're optimistic for our gay community or LGBTQ plus community?
Those are great questions. Well, I have great respect and love for gay men. I have great hope for, I think gay men have always been served many functions in society. One of them being the people who push the envelope, the people who try things first, the people who are creative with their eroticism. And I love that gay men insist on sex.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes, we do.
It's great because it's a reclaiming, it's a beautiful part of our lives. And so there's lots of things that I love about gay men. And the hope I have is that, they're just going to keep doing it. Nice. And that's important. We need to have those people who go out into the edges and gather the information and come back to the rest of the culture and say, it's okay, come on, it'll be all right.
And if there's one direction you could see us going in that you maybe want to like redirect or pivot?
Well, another thing I love about gay men is their sweet, tender hearts. Very sweet, tender hearts usually. And so a place that I would love gay men to go is to be a little more curious about their own tenderness and vulnerability and their desire for intimacy and connection with other men. Yes. Like, we can get into habits of just, sex all the time and I don't want to judge that. It's, whatever. But I mean, underneath that often is a real desire for connection and intimacy. And we have these beautiful sweethearts. And I just would love gay men to be more, to just want more of that for themselves and work harder on it.
I love that.
Yeah. Be more
gorgeous,
proactive about insisting on heart space and vulnerability and connection.
Well, that brings up, and you said you were going to play along with us for the rest of the show, and that brings us to a Reddit thread where we're just going to offer our take on, and it was posted by UJYVES59. He wrote in his Reddit thread, sex has started to bore me. Bore me? What? Actually, it has. And how is that even possible? He wanted to have comments to see. He wrote, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but I do not have the excitement that I used to have. I'm 38 and I've had lots of sex in the past, but somehow I've lost interest. I miss the time when I would meet a guy and couldn't wait to rip his clothes off. Nowadays, I would rather stay home and masturbate rather than getting sexy with a hot guy. I don't have any fetish that I would like to explore or any fantasy, but I would like to recover some of the excitement that I used to have when I was younger. Any advice? We couldn't help but think of you for this one. Any advice for him?
Wow. Well, I think part of it is, on some level, we do change and grow and things become different, energies become different. And I think that part of it is just getting, again, really curious and like, what's my desire telling me now? And it's okay if it's different than it used to be. Right. It's like on some level we accept kind of like the ebbs and flows of our desire and our sexual energy and stuff like that. I always used to say, I used to teach, in junior high class, and they would always be like, I'm bored. And I would always be like, boredom's a choice.
Yes.
There it is.
My mom used to say that.
Boredom's a choice, right? And so it's kind of like, well, if you're feeling bored, there's some information coming from within you. There's something more that needs attention. I would suggest to this person, not that they're asking for my suggestions, but
oh no,
they are. They went on Reddit. So
what I would get really curious about is coming home to my body and getting really curious about how pleasure lives in my body, in my skin. Slow it down. Like, it's not even about the other person. It's about what feels good to me, because if I can awaken that pleasure in my body, and if I can get curious about it and get into relationship with it, it will activate new things. And maybe this person, I think what happens too is as we age that we do desire intimacy and connection.
Yes.
We want to be met. We want to be seen, we want to be loved, and we want to give that love. So I just, to be able to drop down into a deeper connection can be very hot. Like I feel now, it's like I can definitely play and blah, blah, blah. But like if I really have a connection with somebody, like if they're giving me a blowjob and they look in my eyes, right, Kodi?
Okay.
Oh my.
I'm just going to take
I'm
myself
getting a
off
little.
the camera
I'm getting a little
right
hot
now.
over
you know what
here,
I'm saying.
Craig.
But
Yes,
just,
I do. I do
to
know.
be in connection
100%
can be so hot. And that changes over the time in our lives, I think. What do y'all think?
I'm gonna have to 100% agree with you that there's a person that I've made out with more recently that I'm gonna see soon, and we're gonna reignite that. Doesn't mean that we're gonna necessarily have sex. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. But the thing that I can say is I've had sex with a lot of different people, and once I've had sex at times, it's like, okay, move it along.
Yeah.
But when I've had that connection with somebody where I can look into their eyes and connect with them, lips locked, I really feel a definite, connection with somebody. And Finn Deerhart, Craig, says this all the time, who gave you all those accolades, is that you can do this. One of the best things you can do is spend a Friday night. Doesn't have to be Friday night, but let's just choose Friday. And you can light the candles. You can fire up the fireplace, and you can look in the mirror, and you can start touching your body.
Yes.
Have a whole reconnection to your body. I mean, I didn't used to think that my nipples were fired up at all, and I learned they are, and
that's so nice
later on in life, and
they blossomed for you. I love that.
They blossomed into roses, actually, that cost a lot of money. But
did you have some kind of procedure to make them more?
I didn't. It was all natural, and I'm charging a lot of money now with so
Okay.
But Kodi, what are your thoughts?
So my first thought is to get your testosterone checked, because as we grow older, we all know that sometimes the testosterone wanes. And after that is all kind of ruled out, then I would agree with you guys 100%. Get really clear on what you want out of sex and out of life. Maybe it's time for a break. Maybe it's time for you to explore other types of sex that might reignite those fires within you. But you just never know. But you have to get clear on what you want out of your life and out of your sex life specifically.
Absolutely. And I think we can also learn more about how to wait, where are you guys? Okay, here we go. We need to look, one thing that I love about Body Electric, like the first time I took a Body Electric workshop, one thing that you learn is like these 6 to 8 or 10 new cock strokes. Other than what we call Old Faithful. Just
wait a minute now.
Yes.
You need my email address and my phone number.
Craig just has to come back on and teach us them.
They have wonderful names.
Maybe for our Patreon.
You hold the base of your cock and you come up. It's called Twist and Shout. Or you wiggle the head of your cock. It's called Wiggle It. And you learn all these fabulous cock strokes. And it's a part of offering pleasure and receiving pleasure. And they're funny names. They're wonderful. It's a part of the workshop. Celebrating the body erotic is the first weekend workshop at Body Electric, and I took that workshop for the first time. I was like 33. I had like 6 new cock strokes. I would go out and like practice them on these guys, and they were like, "Are you a fucking tantric master?" Because I knew like 5 cock strokes, and I was willing to apply them.
And yes is the answer.
But whatever.
We all need this, though. It's so important. And Bryce, watching us live, says, and the balls give so much pleasure, too. That's right. We forget about that. I feel like there's no reason to be bored ever in sex. And, I appreciate that person writing that Reddit thread and saying his truth. But like my mama always said, there's no room to be bored. The opposite of bored is we don't want to know what that is. So make it work, make it happen. There's no room for boredom in this lifetime.
Yeah, there's just so many possibilities.
That's right. Explore.
All right, I've heard enough.
A Tantra workshop. Take something that like it up for you, baby.
Craig, I've heard enough.
Silence.
It's time to move on. But you've said you'd play. I'm giving my inner
RuPaul.
Let's move on. Bring out my bitches. And it's time for Straight Up Gay Porns. And I put it in the link to ask Thirst Trap Recap.
Oh my God.
Thirst Trap for your life.
Little interesting note about this that we do every week where we give our little take on an audio podcast is that for whatever reason, Twitter doesn't allow to embed videos anymore. So Straight Up Gay Porn, which was doing a combination of videos and photos, is no longer allowed to do that. However, what he did state is the last several ones that have gotten the highest marks have all been photos. So with that in mind, we asked the question based on Straight Up Gay Porn's Thirst Trap Recap, which of these 13 gay porn stars took the best photo? And do we dare start with you, Craig, and tell us who you picked and why?
Oh my God.
It's not that complicated. But
okay, I'm still scrolling through.
It's overwhelming, though.
Cody, go first because
I'll go first.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll
go first. Greg, I'll go first.
Please.
So, first of all, there are so many sexy pics this week, although I am definitely going to miss the videos. But my vote this week goes to David Zane. It's really kind of strange because I picked another couch ass picture, just like last week. But if it ain't broke, don't fix that. Okay. He has his legs up in the air. His ankles are near his ears, and his asshole is perked and ready to be pounded. And he's on an ugly leather couch, just like last week too.
I love his tattoo on his hand. It's beautiful. The rose.
He's got vinyl.
He's got beautiful tattoos, and he has a little cut in his eyebrow like Anitra. I thought you would enjoy that.
I used to have that. That's tired, but
no, he looks so adorable.
Okay, that's so it. We're cutting your mic off. Moving on to me is I'm choosing Colt Spence, and the reason why because he has a power tool in his hand, and I love a good power tool, and he has a beautiful dick and balls. I always cheat, and I go to their Twitter. And he was with another guy, Lucky Charms guy, that is a feet worshiper, and I'm into feet. And Colt Spence, has beautiful feet and had his feet worshipped, and I'm all into that. Colt, just scroll down a little bit more. And to me, that was like, I do a little bit more research on mine. I don't know if Cody does. If
I did, darling.
Low-hanging fruit.
David gets pounded.
He's very cute.
Yeah. All right, Craig, who do you pick in 2
minutes? Yeah, I think I'm going to go with, and it's just because of his beautiful smile.
We don't want a name, we just want a name.
Roxas Calum.
Ooh, yes.
Look at that smile.
No time for laughter. Why do you like him?
Smile. He's beautiful.
I feel like Judge Judy.
He has a gorgeous smile. He has a beautiful cock. He just looks like such a sweet, happy guy.
That works.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, Craig, before you go, and we'll read some of the other names that our listeners picked. You have a podcast that's out now and that comes out periodically. Tell us about it real quick.
Yeah, real quick. It's called the Erotic Liberation Podcast. And twice a month, we talk to people about this question of like, what does it mean to be erotically liberated? All kinds of different sex educators and erotic practitioners in the field and all kinds of ways. You can go find it at the Body Electric website at bodyelectric.org, or you can find it on, Apple. But yeah, it's called the Erotic Liberation Podcast. And I co-host it with with this wonderful person, Gabriella Love. And
how can we follow you?
Follow me. I'm at CraigCullinane.com. Should I spell it? CraigCullinane. CraigCullinane.com. or Body Electric, and yeah.
We'll definitely list this
Yeah.
on TAGSPodcast.com, episode 456. Just to read a couple others. Were there any others that somebody wrote? Damon wrote, yes, Craig, I have to resist giving Roxas every week he appears. What does that mean, Kodi?
I'm not
He
sure.
so he just wants to pick Roxas as well.
Okay, all right. I love it.
Oh, I see.
But Damon also said that I'm his second choice for thirst traps.
Oh,
You, Kodi, are?
Yes,
I
I'm his
love
second-
it. Yay.
now what does your shirt say? It says all I see is pretty butt. Oh, pretty butt loco.
Pretty butt loco,
Oh, that's
yeah.
a very key piece of information.
I keep the loco out of the frame.
I love it. And you can follow Kodi. He's a life coach at KMD Coaching on Instagram, and follow him on his personal account at Mr. Maurice. Mr. Maurice. Follow me. I am _Steve V, or at Tags Podcast on every social media platform. Thanks, Craig. You've been
Thank
a
you.
delight.
Oh my
So
God,
glad we
thank
made
you
it
so much.
work.
I love it.
Finally,
Yes.
finally.
And you all have to come on
Okay.
the Erotic Liberation podcast for sure.
Definitely.
I'll find
Just
you.
invite us, and
I
we
will
will
find
be
you.
there. All right.
Have a good time in
bitches.
Puerto Vallarta.
I will. I'll report back. And in the meantime, follow us. Continue having Craig hot, gay. What's the word? Sex, of course.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Love it.